Redemption requires accountability, remorse, and transformation, and when those are absent, mercy only enables further harm. You owe it to yourself to protect your heart from repeated wounds. You owe it to yourself to surround yourself with people who cherish your trust, not exploit it. When someone breaks your trust once, the pain is sharp. When they break it again, it is a warning. When it happens repeatedly, it is a clear message: walk away, because some people will never change, and holding on to them only holds you back from the peace and respect you deserve. If a person betrays your trust repeatedly, show them no mercy, not because you are cruel, but because you are wise enough to protect your heart and strong enough to let go. Holding on to someone who repeatedly betrays your trust is like holding on to a burning coal, hoping it won't burn you again. It's an act of hope that blinds you to reality. And the longer you stay, the more you risk losing your own sense of worth, your peace of mind, and your ability to trust not just them, but others as well. There is no kindness in enduring betrayal indefinitely. There is no loyalty in accepting a pattern of disrespect. True strength lies in recognizing when someone has shown you who they are and having the courage to walk away. To preserve your dignity, your heart, and your future, you must be willing to say no more. People who betray trust repeatedly are beyond redemption, not because we are unwilling to forgive, but because forgiveness without change is meaningless. It's a wound that doesn't just hurt, it shatters your sense of safety and makes you question everything about the relationship. Everyone makes mistakes. People slip up, say the wrong thing, or let us down sometimes. But betrayal is not a simple mistake. It is a conscious decision to violate the unspoken contract between people that promise to respect and protect each other's hearts. And when that decision is made once, it's painful when it happens twice. It's alarming when it happens again and again. It becomes undeniable. This person is not worthy of your trust. Repeated betrayal reveals a lack of respect and empathy. It shows a willingness to put their needs above your feelings, a disregard for your pain, and a failure to honor the relationship. They might apologize, promise to change, or explain away their actions, but their behavior tells the real story. Words mean little without lasting change, and repeated betrayal proves that the change will never come. Trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. It's the fragile thread that connects hearts, binds friendships, and cements partnerships. When you trust someone, you are giving them something incredibly valuable: access to your vulnerabilities, your secrets, your hopes, and your fears. It's not a light gift. It is earned, nurtured, and protected with care. But once that trust is broken, the damage is profound. And when someone betrays your trust repeatedly, it's not just a mistake, it's a pattern that reveals who they really are. Betrayal cuts deeper than any argument or disagreement because it strikes at the core of connection. It is the moment when you realize that someone you believed in, confided in, and counted on has chosen their own gain, their own desires, or their own convenience over your well-being. When someone chooses to lie to you repeatedly, not out of fear or mistake, but with intent and consistency, they are choosing to violate your right to clarity. And once you see the pattern, once you recognize that the confusion in your life started the moment they entered it, you must act. Not gently, not gradually, but with resolve. Because someone who plays with your reality is playing with your freedom, and no one who does that deserves your mercy. There is no relationship worth sacrificing your sanity for. There is no connection that's worth surrendering your truth. People who lie to you to keep power over you do not love you, they love control. And the longer you let them stay, the more of yourself you lose. The most insidious part of being repeatedly lied to is not the lies themselves, it's what they do to your sense of self. You become smaller. You second guess everything. You start apologizing for things you didn't do. You begin living in a constant state of mental negotiation, walking on eggshells, trying not to trigger more manipulation. It is emotional imprisonment, and it's designed to keep you exactly where they want you: confused, compliant, and silent. This kind of manipulation doesn't just damage relationships, it damages your ability to think clearly. You lose trust in yourself. And once you stop trusting your own mind, you become dependent on the very person who is hurting you. That's not love. That's not friendship. That's not leadership. That is abuse dressed up as concern, lies disguised, and control masked as closeness. They twist facts. They deny things they've done even when the evidence is right in front of them. And worst of all, they convince you that the problem is your memory, your sensitivity, your misunderstanding. This is not just deception. This is gaslighting, a calculated effort to erode your confidence in your own mind. At first, it might feel confusing. You begin to doubt your instincts. You question whether you're being too dramatic, too forgetful, too emotional. But over time, it becomes more than confusion. It becomes chaos. You no longer trust what you feel, what you saw, what you heard. You start relying on the liar to define your reality because they've convinced you that your own view of things can't be trusted. That's not a miscommunication. That's control. Lies are not always loud. They don't always come in the form of bold falsehoods or obvious betrayal. Some of the most dangerous lies are the subtle ones told not to deceive the world, but to distort your perception. They come from people who want control, not connection. People who lie not because they're afraid of the truth, but because they know the truth would take their power away. These are not harmless fabrications or white lies. These are deliberate manipulations designed to keep you unsure, off balance, and dependent. When someone lies to you over and over, they are not simply breaking trust, they are reshaping your world. They lie about what happened, what was said, what was promised. They twist facts. They deny things they've done even when the evidence is right in front of them. When you identify someone who pretends to support you while secretly competing, don't give them another opportunity to get closer. Don't try to fix it. Don't wait for them to change. Cut them off not to punish them, but to protect yourself. Because anyone who can't handle your growth without feeling threatened is telling you clearly they were never clapping for you to begin with. In a world already filled with challenges, the last thing you need is someone in your corner who's secretly hoping you lose. Show them no mercy. Not out of cruelty, but out of respect for yourself and everything you're building. This isn't just about envy, it's about sabotage cloaked in support. It's about people who study your strengths just to figure out how to outshine you. They might copy you, imitate your style, repeat your words, or mimic your ideas, then act as if they came up with it first. They don't want to learn from you, they want to be you. And the longer you keep them around, the more they'll drain your energy, poison your joy, and chip away at your confidence. You do not owe loyalty to those who only offer you silent resentment. You do not owe time, attention, or emotional space to anyone who celebrates your struggles more than your success. These are not friends. They're shadows lingering just close enough to benefit from your light, but never willing to help carry it. These people are dangerous not because they attack you directly, but because they remain close while secretly rooting against you. They want your light to dim just enough so theirs appears brighter. They don't want to be better with you, they want to be better than you. And because they hide behind the mask of friendship, you hesitate to confront them. You question yourself. You wonder if you're being paranoid or insecure. But deep down, you feel it, the tension, the subtle digs, the lack of genuine joy for your growth. You can tell who they are by the way they disappear when you succeed and reappear when you fall. You can see it in how they always shift the focus back to themselves when you share something good. They don't listen to celebrate you, they listen to compete. And if you're not careful, you'll keep them close, mistaking proximity for loyalty. But closeness means nothing when the person beside you is secretly threatened by your existence. There is a unique kind of betrayal that doesn't come from open enemies, it comes from people who wear the mask of friendship while quietly rooting for your failure. They clap when you win, but it's hollow. They cheer when you rise, but they secretly hope you'll fall. These are the people who act like supporters, but underneath it all, they are competitors, silent rivals who smile to your face while measuring your every move behind your back. They don't compete with the world, they compete with you. They keep track of your progress, not to celebrate it, but to compare it to their own. If you get something they want, a job, recognition, a relationship, praise, they suddenly become distant, cold, or passive-aggressive. If you're struggling, they become unusually helpful or kind, not out of compassion, but because they're comforted by your weakness. Their kindness is strategic. Their praise is conditional. Their loyalty is thin. The strongest thing you can do is walk away, not because you're angry, but because you're done teaching someone how to respect what they've already been taught. When someone shows you again and again that they will not honor your limits, it's not time to give them more chances. It's time to give yourself permission to shut the door. Because if they keep crossing the line after being told not to, the problem isn't that they don't understand, it's that they don't care. And those who don't care about your boundaries do not deserve your mercy. They deserve your absence. This behavior is manipulation cloaked in familiarity. It's a slow erosion of your sense of safety. And if you let it continue, if you show them mercy every time they cross the line, they will keep pushing until the boundary is gone and you're left wondering how you lost control over your own life. The truth is, people who do not respect your boundaries do not respect you. It's not about misunderstanding. It's not about communication issues, it's about disregard. And once you recognize that someone is no longer trying to be in your life, they are trying to control it, you must stop explaining, stop negotiating, and start removing. You owe no one repeated access to your peace. You owe no one the chance to repeatedly wound you with the same behavior you've already addressed. That your discomfort, your needs, and your voice are secondary to their desires. And that's when you have to decide who you are going to protect, your peace or their comfort. People who consistently cross boundaries are not confused. They are entitled. They believe they have a right to access your time, your emotions, your space whenever they choose. And when you finally say no, they will call you difficult, selfish, even cruel. But make no mistake, setting a boundary is not cruelty. Ignoring one is. These people often come disguised as friends, lovers, family members, or even mentors. They will tell you they care. They will say they understand. But their actions say otherwise. They come closer than you asked. They ask for more than you offered. They speak over your stop. They treat your no like a suggestion. And each time they do, they chip away at your self-respect, hoping you'll eventually stop defending yourself. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are bridges to protect what matters most, your peace, your energy, your dignity. A boundary is a statement. It says, this is who I am. This is what I will accept. This is how I expect to be treated. And healthy people respect that. Even if they don't agree with your limits, they honor them because they care about you. But then there are people who see boundaries not as limits to respect, but as obstacles to push past. They test your lines. They ignore your words. They pretend not to understand. And then they apologize only to do it again. The first time someone crosses a line, it might be ignorance. The second time, it might be carelessness. But the third time, it's a message. It's a declaration that your boundaries don't matter to them. It takes courage to call these people out. It takes even more strength to stand your ground when they come for you. But make no mistake, these are not people in need of sympathy. These are people who need to face accountability. Because when someone makes a habit of climbing by cutting others down, they are not simply trying to rise, they are declaring that no one else deserves to stand beside them. That kind of arrogance, that kind of cruelty must not be coddled. It must be confronted. If a person destroys others to elevate themselves, show them no mercy. Not out of spite, but because protecting yourself and others from their path of damage is not just your right. It's your responsibility. Because the longer they go unchecked, the more damage they do not just to individuals, but to entire environments. They create toxic workplaces, fractured friendships, broken communities. They pit people against each other, create divisions, and thrive in chaos. Their success, if achieved through this method, is poison from the start. And the more we tolerate it, the more we normalize it. The most dangerous thing about these people is that they often succeed, at least for a time. They may be charming. They may be persuasive. They may even fool those in power. But underneath the surface, they are hollow. And everything they build will eventually collapse, because if you destroy others to reach the top, there's nothing solid to stand on when you get there. Sometimes they operate in subtle ways, undermining with passive comments, planting seeds of doubt in others, taking credit for your work in a room full of people, or quietly excluding you from opportunities. Other times they are direct, spreading rumors, attacking your character, exposing your flaws, or twisting your truth to turn others against you. And they almost always try to justify it. They'll claim it's just strategy, just business, just a joke, or worse, that you deserved it. But no one ever deserves to be diminished so someone else can shine. No one ever deserves to have their name dragged through the mud because another person couldn't handle their own mediocrity. And those who engage in this behavior, deliberately harming others to climb higher, must not be met with patience or diplomacy. They must be stopped. There's a particular kind of person who can't rise without stepping on someone else. They don't compete fairly. They don't grow through hard work, honesty, or integrity. Instead, they tear others down in order to appear taller. They sabotage. They gossip. They lie. They discredit. They slander. And they do it all with one goal: to gain power, praise, or position, not by earning it, but by eliminating anyone they see as a threat. This behavior is not ambition, it's destruction disguised as drive. There is a difference between fighting for your place in the world and poisoning the soil around others so they can't grow. These people live in comparison. Your success becomes their insecurity. Your happiness becomes their target. They can't celebrate others because they feel diminished by anything that isn't centered around themselves. Forgiveness may be divine, but it should never be blind. There is a point where letting go means not just releasing anger, but releasing the person who caused it. There is a point where protecting your spirit matters more than preserving a connection. That point is not weakness, it is wisdom. You can forgive someone for yourself in your own heart and still choose to never let them near you again. That is not cruelty, that is clarity. When someone continues to take from you, to damage you, to disrespect your boundaries, they are not asking for forgiveness. They are asking for permission to keep hurting you. And the most loving, powerful thing you can do for yourself is to say no, to walk away, to rise not just above the pain, but beyond the reach of those who would cause it again. They are interested in keeping you where they want you, quiet, compliant, forgiving, and available for their next mistake. And if you never stand up for yourself, they will never stop. To stand up for yourself is not to be unforgiving, it is to be self-respecting. It is to understand that your peace, your mental health, your safety, and your sense of worth are not things to be negotiated. You are not here to absorb damage in the name of loyalty. You are not required to keep people in your life simply because they expect it. You are allowed to say, what you did hurt me, and I don't owe you my continued presence. Forgiveness without boundaries is a prison. It traps you in a cycle where your pain is dismissed, your voice is silenced, and your healing is postponed. It teaches people that they can wound you without consequence. And it teaches you that you must carry the burden of making peace with things that were never okay in the first place. There is a dangerous idea in our culture that the more you endure, the stronger you are. That turning the other cheek again and again makes you noble. But strength does not mean tolerating mistreatment. It doesn't mean letting people walk over your boundaries just because they carry the label of family, friend, or partner. Strength is knowing when to say enough. It is knowing when to close the door and walk away, not because you are heartless, but because you have a heart that deserves peace. Some people will take your forgiveness as permission. They will take your grace as weakness. They will say the words "I'm sorry" without meaning a single syllable, only to repeat the same behaviors that hurt you the first time. These are not people who are interested in growth. Forgiveness is one of the most praised human virtues. We are told to forgive to find peace, to let go of anger, to rise above what was done to us. And there is truth in that. Forgiveness can be healing. It can free us from the weight of resentment and prevent pain from taking permanent root in our hearts. But what is rarely said out loud is that forgiveness has limits. It is not a blanket you throw over every wound. It is not a pass you give to those who repeatedly break you. True forgiveness is earned, not demanded. It is offered when there is remorse, when there is accountability, when there is change. Without those things, forgiveness is not strength, it becomes self-betrayal. We must never romanticize mercy to the point where we excuse evil. Forgiveness is not owed to those who never show remorse. Kindness does not require blindness. To protect the innocent sometimes means drawing hard lines. It means recognizing that not everyone deserves a second chance, and not every act deserves grace. Because when someone chooses to deliberately harm the innocent, they make a statement about who they are. And if we don't answer that statement with strength, we become part of the problem. Mercy should be given to those who stumble, not to those who strike. And when the innocent suffer because someone else decided to be cruel, we must never forget that silence and mercy can become complicity. Absence of empathy, you understand that there are people in this world who do not deserve your mercy. They deserve your boundaries. They deserve exposure. They deserve the full weight of consequences. It is not cruel to protect the innocent with intensity. It is not heartless to be unforgiving toward those who prey on others. In fact, it is necessary. Because what you tolerate, you endorse. And when deliberate harm goes unchecked, when it is explained away or softened with sympathy, it sends a message that it is okay, that it can be done again, that innocence is disposable. Some wounds don't come with bruises. Some battles don't involve fists. Sometimes the most violent thing a person can do is to break another's spirit with words, manipulation, or calculated silence. And when that pain is inflicted on someone who had no defense, who trusted, who loved, who believed, it is one of the most unforgivable acts. The innocent are seen as easy targets, those who won't retaliate, those who are too kind to recognize cruelty for what it is, or too young, too trusting, too powerless to defend themselves. Whether it's a child, an animal, an elderly person, or simply someone who has done no harm, the deliberate act of causing them pain reveals a darkness in a person that cannot be excused. This is more than just meanness. This is more than a bad attitude or a bad day. This is malice, cold, calculated malice. And the moment someone chooses to inflict that kind of harm, they forfeit the privilege of understanding. They forfeit the benefit of the doubt. They show us exactly who they are. And once you see that cruelty up close, once you witness the smirk behind the suffering, the satisfaction in the control, the absence of empathy, you understand that there are people in this world who do not deserve your mercy. There is something deeply disturbing about a person who harms the innocent not by accident, not in self-defense, but with intent, with clarity, and without remorse. When someone goes out of their way to hurt those who are defenseless, vulnerable, or unaware, they cross a line that separates human weakness from moral corruption. To deliberately target someone who cannot fight back, who has done no wrong, who is simply trying to live, is to commit a violation not just against that individual, but against the very fabric of what it means to be human. Innocence should never be a liability. It should never be something to exploit. And yet, for some, it is seen as an opportunity. To challenge abuse is not to be disloyal. It is to be courageous. To speak out is not to be disruptive, it is to be honest. Resistance in the face of tyranny is not a flaw, it is a duty. If those with power forget that they exist to serve and not to rule, then it is the responsibility of the people to remind them. Power should never be untouchable. It should be held to the highest standard, and when it is violated, it must be called out, confronted, and if necessary, stripped away. Because the moment we start showing mercy to those who abuse their power, we betray not only ourselves, but everyone still trapped under their control. But allowing it to go unchallenged always costs more in the long run, because unchecked power doesn't just affect individuals, it poisons entire systems. It breeds cultures of fear, corruption, and control. It teaches people that cruelty is strength and that submission is survival. When someone chooses to abuse their power, they forfeit the moral protections that come with that position. A leader who oppresses is no longer a leader, they are a tyrant. A parent who controls through fear is not guiding, they are dominating. A partner who dictates through threats is not loving, they are imprisoning. And such behavior should never be met with mercy. Not because we are cruel, but because justice demands a response. Respect for authority must never become blind obedience. Honor for a role must never eclipse accountability for the actions taken within it. As dangerous where truth becomes inconvenient and where justice becomes something selectively applied. They do not lead, they dominate. They do not inspire, they threaten. And often, the ones suffering under their rule feel trapped, convinced they must endure it or risk losing everything. These individuals count on that silence. They feed off of it. They count on people believing they have no choice. But abuse of power never stops on its own. It escalates, it spreads, and with every act of submission, with every injustice overlooked, the abuser becomes bolder, more entitled, more untouchable. This is why abuse of power must never be met with passivity. It must never be rationalized, minimized, or explained away. It must be met with resistance. Resisting abuse of power is not easy. It often comes with a price: reputation, relationships, even safety. Power in itself is not evil. It can be used to protect, to lead, to uplift. True power, when held with integrity, can create justice, build nations, and change lives for the better. But when power is abused, when it becomes a weapon instead of a responsibility, it becomes one of the most destructive forces known to humanity. And what makes abuse of power so insidious is that it often happens quietly, gradually, and under the pretense of order or authority. It hides behind titles, uniforms, reputations, or charm. It demands obedience without earning respect. It silences rather than listens. It punishes rather than guides. An abuser of power thrives on imbalance. They depend on fear, submission, and silence. They use their position, whether in a workplace, a family, a community, or a government, to bend others beneath them. They create environments where questioning becomes dangerous, where truth becomes inconvenient, and where justice becomes something selectively applied. It is our duty not just to protect ourselves, but to draw a line that says this ends here. When manipulation is uncovered, it must be confronted, not excused. When someone has shown they will lie, twist, and deceive to get ahead, it is not noble to look away. It is necessary to shut the door on them completely. Because those who make a game out of other people's lives deserve no mercy, only distance, exposure, and the full weight of the consequences they tried so hard to avoid. Manipulators thrive on second chances. They count on your kindness. They bank on your silence. But when someone has shown you that they will twist your reality to serve their needs, the most dangerous thing you can do is give them another opportunity. Mercy, in this context, is not compassion. It's a mistake. because people who manipulate others for personal gain are not just hurting individuals, they're poisoning environments. They destroy trust wherever they go. They erode teams, families, communities. They create chaos and call it coincidence. And if they are not stopped, if they are not exposed, they will continue to feed off others, unchecked. They pretend to care so they can get closer, only to strike when you're most vulnerable. And often, they make you feel like you're the one at fault, as if you're overreacting, imagining things, or being too sensitive. This isn't confusion. This is psychological warfare. These people know exactly what they're doing. They know how to mirror your hopes, how to echo your insecurities, and how to spin every situation to serve themselves. They will climb over the broken pieces of your trust without a flicker of guilt if it gets them what they want, be it money, status, influence, or power. This isn't ignorance. This is evil. And that's why manipulation, especially when done for personal gain, deserves no mercy. There is no justification for knowingly bending another person's mind or heart to your will for selfish ends. There is no excuse for using someone's love, loyalty, or desperation as a weapon. That's not cleverness, it's cruelty. It's not strategy, it's soullessness. Manipulation is one of the most dangerous forms of human behavior because it wears a mask. It pretends to be something it's not: kindness, concern, charm, even love. But underneath that mask lies cold calculation. A manipulator sees people not as individuals with feelings, dignity, or worth, but as tools, objects to be used, bent, or broken to serve their own agenda. And what makes this kind of person so dangerous is not just what they do, but how they do it. They don't attack you outright. They make you question yourself. They twist facts. They distort reality. They plant seeds of doubt. They use your trust, your emotions, even your empathy to control you. A manipulator never shows their true face until the damage is done. They play victim to avoid blame. They gaslight to avoid accountability. But betrayal demands consequences, because if you show mercy to someone who shattered your trust and they face no real fallout, you give them permission to do it again, not just to you, but to others. You reinforce the idea that loyalty is optional and that manipulation can be forgiven without remorse. There comes a point when protecting yourself and your peace means cutting ties, standing tall, and saying, "I will not let you step on me again." It's not about revenge, it's about respect. And respect begins with valuing yourself enough to say, "You crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed." Let them call you harsh. Let them say you're unforgiving, but never let them think your trust is cheap or your heart is disposable. Betrayal is a violation of your very soul. And when someone commits that crime against you, they deserve no mercy. Only distance. Only silence. Only the consequences they chose when they decided to betray you. They use your belief in them as a weapon, exploiting your openness as a weakness. It's one of the most devastating forms of harm because it doesn't come from a stranger. It comes from someone you let in. Someone you believed in. Someone who had access to your heart, your secrets, your time, your support, and used all of it as ammunition. What makes betrayal so brutal is that it doesn't just make you question them, it makes you question yourself. You wonder if you were too naive, too forgiving, too blind. But the truth is, trust is not a flaw. It is a strength. Betrayal is not your failure. It is theirs. And this is why when trust is deliberately violated, mercy should not be your first response. Mercy is earned. Redemption requires accountability. Trust is the invisible thread that holds relationships together, whether it's between friends, family, colleagues, or partners. It's not given lightly. It's built slowly, brick by brick, over time through actions, words, and consistency. Trust is what allows us to be vulnerable with one another. It's what gives meaning to loyalty, love, and connection. But when someone knowingly and deliberately betrays that trust, they don't just break a bond, they shatter something sacred. And that kind of betrayal, that calculated disloyalty, is not a mistake. It's a choice. A person who betrays your trust doesn't accidentally hurt you. They weigh your faith in them against their own selfish desires and they choose themselves.